Hello everyone, I'm Andrei from NHL Draft Central, and today I'm super excited to present to you our 2018 NHL mock draft. I say our because I have the pleasure to be joined by Brett from his YouTube channel Mirokiondefence and by Keith from hawkmod.com. But wait, today we'll make a different mock draft than usual. We'll take each team GM job and draft for them. So today we aren't predicting the outcome of the draft. We'll each take turn and select which player is the best for each team in our opinion. Because there is 31 pick and we're 3, we won't make the first overall selection as we already know Tkachuk is the best player of this draft. Nah, I'm just kidding. Everybody agrees Dahlin is the best prospect, and the Sabres take him. So without waiting any longer, let's start with Keith, who will make the selection for Carolina.
So the Carolina Hurricanes just acquired a new owner, and he's just dumped $500 million into their organization to keep the franchise there. Now, he's kind of played ball a little bit with the NHL, by electing to stay in a market that may not totally be profitable right now, but in the future it very well could be again if they win another Stanley Cup like they had in the past. And in order to do that, they're going to need some franchise pieces. So at the top here, at number 2, I'm taking Andrei Svechnikov to provide that spark and that face to the organization that the Carolina Hurricanes desperately need.
So with the third pick, I have Montreal taking Filip Zadina. Montreal needs just a little bit of everything. They need help in a lot of areas, but you can't pass on the best player available at that pick. So they're going with an elite goal scorer with high-end vision and IQ, and he protects the puck extremely well and is also very slippery in and around the corners with the stick handles. Maybe he's not necessarily definitely not the center that Montreal is looking for, but you can't pass up a 30-goal, 30-assist type player. So he'll fit in quite nicely, hopefully, with Jonathan Drouin, and could even see him next year.
Ottawa needs to find a replacement for Carlson, and there is plenty of defensemen in this top 10. So with the 4th overall pick, the Ottawa Senators select Adam Boqvist. If Hughes is the best player available in my opinion at this rank, Boqvist was made for the Senators. His style of play is perfect for them, and if he doesn't play with Carlson, he will scare other teams with Chabot on his side.
With the 5th overall pick, the Arizona Coyotes, and more specifically John Chayka, are going to need to really hit a home run. Now, there's some really good pieces still on the board. Quinn Hughes was just mentioned. Brady Tkachuk is still there. But I think in order to really hit that home run, they're going to have to go way off the board here. Now, this might be a huge jump for some, but simply from the player that you watch, and every time that I catch myself looking in the mirror after I've watched this tape, I am smiling from ear to ear. And I think John Chayka is really going to like this kid a lot, and he's going to be able to really help that team. He may not be the franchise guy they need, but he's going to be the complementary piece up front for Clayton Keller. So with the 5th pick in the 2018 NHL Draft, the Arizona Coyotes select Vitaly Kravtsov from Tractor in the KHL.
6th overall pick, Detroit takes the Michigan Wolverine Quinn Hughes, who I believe, many others too, that he is the best skater in this year's draft. He's able to dictate play from his own end, starting through the rush with a heads up, either making a quick outlet pass, or he can carry the puck through the neutral zone into their zone. And he also possesses elite offensive vision once he's there. So really, I think he's the second best defenseman in this draft.
With Borser, Horvat, and Peterson, the Canucks are set in front. They just need a top pairing defenseman, and the Stanley Cup will fall to them. So with the 7th pick, the Vancouver Canucks select Noah Dobson. Dobson, in one word, smart. I even think smart is an understatement at this point. He does every play right and can join the rush. He doesn't have a weak point. He's a perfect all-around defenseman that the Canucks need.
Do need that.
While the Chicago Blackhawks might need a couple things in the back end, especially trying to replace Duncan Keith, there are a couple options on the board at this point for them in that regard. Evan Bouchard could be a really nice fit for them. But I think the bread and butter of the Chicago Blackhawks has always been what they can do up front. Now, if I'm looking at what the pieces they have and what they're able to do with those pieces up front, they've gotten a nice combination of veterans and some young guys to really mix their skills together in a nice complementary way. I think this is, without a doubt, the best stick handler in the draft, and he's going to really up their shooting potential as well. And he's going to add the speed to their lineup that they constantly are looking for. So with the 8th overall pick in the 2018 NHL draft, the Chicago Blackhawks select Oliver Wahlstrom from the U.S. National Team Development Program.
With the 9th pick, I have the New York Rangers selecting Jesperi Kotkaniemi. The Rangers seem to like to go off the board just a bit. I mean, last year they took Elias Anderson 7th, I think that was it, from that trade for the Antti-Ranta trade. Yeah, that's right. So anyways, Kotkaniemi, I think has maybe one of the better chances out of all the centers in this draft to become a true top 6 forward. He's strong on the puck, and he finds ways to just keep the play alive with his stick handling and his vision. Very, very smart player who can not only set up his teammates, but he can put the puck in the net as well. So number 9, Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
The Edmonton's Oilers are entering Cap Hill, and they need to figure out a way to keep McDavid and to finally win a Stanley Cup. So I will draft the best player to play with their superstar. With the 10th overall pick, the Edmonton Oilers select Ty Smith. Bouchard and Tkachuk are still on the board. So why Smith? Well, he's a McDavid on defense. He might be the fastest player of the entire draft. He can join the rush, make passes in the offensive zone, and we shouldn't forget he's a very good two-way defenseman. His first pass is amazing, which is very important when you're playing with McDavid. If it wasn't for his top prospect game at the end of his U18 tournament, you would see him almost in every top 10. The perfect defenseman for Edmonton.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that real quick if I could and just say that I feel like Ty Smith has the deepest resume of any defenseman in this class, and he's going to be a very nice piece for Edmonton. For the New York Islanders at number 11, you kind of need a little bit of everything, and your biggest challenge is trying to accomplish 2 things. One, either keep John Tavares in town and give him some pieces to play with, and secondly, whether he stays or not, you need some pieces in the future that are going to attract people to your new arena at Belmont Park. Now, at this point, maybe this isn't the player that they targeted, but it's certainly the player that you need to take when it's the best player on the board. So here at number 11, the New York Islanders select Brady Tkachuk from Boston University.
And following up back-to-back with the 12th pick, the Islanders also grab Evan Bouchard, perhaps the best power play quarterback in the draft. I don't think his game is overly flashy. He doesn't really have the high-end puck skills like some other defensemen even in this draft. And his skating isn't, I think, as bad as some make it out to be, but his first 3 steps in the offensive zone, he sees the game like not a lot of other defensemen do. And it's the little details that he has in his game, the vision, the little head fakes, the feet fakes, that makes him so good and is able to just dissect the defending team. So at number 12, they get a great power play quarterback in Evan Bouchard.
The Dallas Stars might need a defenseman, but with no defenseman from the top left, they want to make a splash for their fans at this draft. With the 3rd overall pick, the Dallas Stars select Joel Farabee. Farabee played in the shadow of both Wahlstrom and Jack Hughes this season, but he has managed to put some ridiculous numbers. He's like Dobson, a very smart player who makes every play right. His skating is also elite. The host of the draft leaves with the best players still available.
At number 14, Philadelphia can go a couple different ways. Now, last year I thought they did a really nice job at actually getting Nolan Patrick instead of getting Nico Hischier. Now, I know that wasn't really necessarily their call. New Jersey had the 1st overall pick, but I think it actually worked out for both players in the best way because Philadelphia's identity has always been to have some rough riders. I think Nolan Patrick is more of a rough rider than Nico Hischier is. That's just my opinion, but whatever. Now, again, right here, I think that Philadelphia, again, can have many options. There's some really good physical players in this draft, but I always think that if you're going to really have a tie between a forward and a defenseman, you go defenseman. and there happens to be a pretty good rough riding defenseman right here. So with the 14th overall pick in the 2018 AHL draft, the Philadelphia Flyers select Bodie Wild from the U.S. National Development Program.
So at 15, I think Florida they're set up for a pretty good spot in the future. They're pretty deep on center with Barkov, Trocheck, and Borgstrom coming up. On defense, they're pretty good there too with Ekblad, Mike Matheson. So really, I think they could really just take whatever. I think they could take a bit of a riskier pick here. So at 15, I have them taking Ryan Merkley, who clearly has top 5 talent just offensively. He's as a defenseman, you don't really hear the term playmaker tossed around much, but that's what he is. He makes plays in the offensive zone. With his skating and his vision, he's just able to pick the seam and find his teammates open for basically a tap-in. Really, the big issues there are his attitude, and that's affected his game on the ice. You've seen a couple times where he's, for lack of a better term, broken down and basically just did not look mature enough in the defensive zone and just stopped playing. So that's something that hopefully as he matures, Florida's able to figure that out. Maybe sometime in the Florida sun will just help him calm down there. But I think they can afford to take the pick or to make the risk and take Ryan Merkley at 15 as it's a home run swing. But if it works out for them, they've got quite a player for him.
The Colorado Avalanche had defenseman issue for a long time, but with the addition of Makar, Timmins, and Jr.A, they can now focus on their offensive line. With this 16th pick, the Colorado Avalanche selects Joseph Veleno. Veleno is a two-way center that will strongly help Colorado offensive defensemen by back-checking and staying down below. He is one of the best skaters of the draft and is an elite setup man. With McKinnon and Veleno at center, they will scare other teams.
I like that pick. I like that pick for them.
The New Jersey Devils did a really great job last year, like I just mentioned, of getting Nico Hischier with the first overall pick because it became a really great complementary piece to Taylor Hall. Now, when you trade to make that kind of acquisition and getting an elite player like Taylor Hall up front, that solves a lot of your offensive woes. And I'm not saying that New Jersey has problems on their back end, but you can always have more defensemen than you need. Now, at this point, you kind of have to play the guessing game. There's not really the best answer available right here. But again, if your whole mode of operation at this point is to build offense and you're looking for a defenseman at this point, there's a really great two-way defender with some really nice offensive upside that I'm going to take right here with the 17th overall pick. And that is Rasmus Sandin from the Sioux City Greyhounds. And the reason why I say that necessarily too is because when I'm looking at the point totals on defensemen, Sandin was actually one of my more higher rated players for point production per game. And additionally, I don't think that there's as much of a drop off from him and Rasmus Dahlin, not just because both their names are Rasmus, but because their games really aren't that different. And I think that he kind of flew under the radar in a lot of ways. But this is a really great pick for New Jersey right here if they can land him. So again, with the 17th pick, Rasmus Sandin to the Devils.
So with 18, I'm sticking with a European for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I've got Dominic Bokk, perhaps Keith's favorite prospect.
Yeah.
Had to take it from him. Probably one of the most intriguing prospects for me in this draft too, as he has some of the best hands I've seen in a prospect, and oftentimes just leaves you wondering why he isn't being considered in the top 10, but then you start to look at other parts of his game and the effort isn't quite always there. Consistency and attitude are something that's going to have to work on. But if he just seems like such a Columbus pick and a Jarmo Kekalainen type guy. So hope even with like Oliver Borgstrand, they've got guys, they're high skill guys, and they could use the offense there. So hopefully Torts doesn't do too much to him.
With their second first-round pick, Philadelphia will look to take the best player available. So with the 19th pick, the Philadelphia Flyers select Barrett Hayton. Hayton is a dynamic two-way center. He's a player every coach wants on their team, a bit like Patrice Bergeron. He makes players around him look better. Plus, with the chemistry he developed with Morgan Frost this year, you might see them both playing on the same line at the pro level.
Well, I was trying my damnedest to have my favorite team, the LA Kings, here at number 20, take Dominic Bach. In fact, I tried to sway the conversation many a ways, but I'm sure that that's how it actually goes on draft night at many draft tables. You have somebody that you really like, and guess what? He gets taken 2 picks before you like it, and Jarmo Kekalainen isn't wanting to have any discussions. So at this point, I have to regroup. I'm okay with that because at the end of the day, I'm looking for speed and skill. Now, again, Dominic Bach is my favorite player in this draft, only primarily because I'm of German descent primarily, and it's not often that you see a German player this very high in the draft. So anytime I see a player like that, of course, I'm going to jump right at them. I actually like his game a lot, though, but that's another story for another day. I'm looking at the LA Kings right now. I need speed and skill, and my biggest piece right now to build around is Adrian Kempe, who had a really, really great breakout year this year. And a lot of people, I think, were not so high on him when he came on his draft year. But now that he is the primary piece that they should build around, I'm looking at the board and I'm seeing another Swedish player that has speed, playmaking abilities, and the ability to finish as well. So right here with the 20th overall pick, the Los Angeles Kings select in the 2018 NHL draft Isaac Lidstrom from the SHL.
So at 21, San Jose has just been one of those teams that's just, they're the Washington Capitals of the Western Conference. They're just always up there, always making the playoffs. You kind of forget about, it'll be a weird day when I don't see them make the playoffs. You just kind of just forget that they don't just live in the playoffs. But because of that, they haven't really had the luxury of picking that high other than, I guess, Timo Meier. But really their prospect cupboard is looking pretty barren, and I think you just have to go the BPA at that time. And to me, I think it's Akil Thomas, who's kind of maybe flown a little bit under the radar on a mediocre Niagara Ice Dogs team, but he put up pretty solid numbers there with a high hockey IQ, impactful on both ends of the ice. I think he's just going to be a solid overall player for the Sharks for the future.
Yeah, I'll say real quick about Akil Thomas. I think he's the perfect fit for San Jose because he's that combination of being a power forward with kind of a smaller body frame, and at the same time, he's so fast. I don't think people talk about that enough. I mean, the guy can literally walk. I call it the three-point line because I imagine that you could draw a three-point line on a hockey rink, and essentially that's how they would walk it. But he walks the three-point line so fast, and that's the one thing that San Jose is constantly looking for is people that can really play that physical game but can really play that up-tempo game. That's a great pick, Miroki. I really like that pick a lot.
With Boqvist replacing Carlson, Ottawa can now look at their real need, a first-line center. With the 22nd pick, the Ottawa Senators select Rasmus Kupari. While there isn't any potential first-line center in this draft, Kupari got the most potential with Kotkaniemi. His numbers didn't impress this year, but the talent is definitely there. One of the best skaters, an amazing stick handler, and a good passer.
During the expansion draft for Las Vegas, they were able to work out some really great backdoor deals. And one of the deals that they were able to pull off was with the Anaheim Ducks, because the Ducks really didn't want to lose Sammy Botman. Now, the turnaround with that was that they dumped Clayton Stoner's contract, but they also had to give up Shea Theodore. And when you gave up Shea Theodore, you gave up a lot of bit of your future on the back end. Now, fortunately for the Anaheim Ducks, it kind of works out for them in a good way here because there's a player that reminds me a lot of Shea Theodore right here. And this player in the beginning of the season was ranked as a top 5 prospect, by the way. So this is kind of a fall. Maybe this is a true draft grade. I'm not really sure because there's some inconsistency there. But I think, again, just by his level of play and what he can provide to the Ducks, who really like this type of defenseman anyway, and they're going to groom this player into a great one. They're going to take right here with the 21st pick, with the 23rd pick, the Anaheim Ducks select Jared McIsaac from the Q.
At 24, I think Minnesota takes a bit of a swing for the fences type pick here as well, with Keandre Miller, the 6'3" defenseman out of the U.S. development program. And what I love about his game is is how he plays it. He's extremely athletic and a rangy defender who can get up and down the ice with speed and really play some lockdown defense, almost closing the gap really well. And it sounds like he's also a very high character guy too. So I really think the sky's the limit here for Miller, who just recently really started truly trying to play the defense. So if he can improve upon his offensive game just a bit, I think they have a player there.
Toronto needs defensemen, but with that many good forwards around at this point, they can pass on all of them. With the 25th overall pick, the Toronto Maple Leafs select Jonathan Berggren. Berggren is a fast and dynamic offensive center. He easily beats defensemen in a 1v1 situation and is super smart. He looks a bit like Kasperi Kapanen, a player who fits the Leafs style of play.
The New York Rangers have both the 26th and the 28th pick coming up. So there's a nice little reason for making a pick here at 26 if you feel like it's not going to be available 2 picks from now. But at least for this discussion, I'm going to just pick the guy that I really think is going to help the Rangers out a little bit, because they call it a retooling. You can call it a rebuild, whatever you'd like. It just all equates to the same thing, that things aren't perfect and that things are changing. So the New York Rangers need leadership, especially after you traded a lot of people that were the people that were leading that locker room. So once those players are gone and you don't have any, you're going to have to replenish the well in that regard. Now, I'm looking at all the players available, and again, one of the biggest things that comes down to it for separating a prospect for me from another prospect is if they wore an extra patch on their sweater when they were in juniors. Now, if you're an alternate captain or even a team captain, this is one of the reasons why I think Ty Smith is so overlooked, because he was either an alternate captain or a team captain on many international teams for Team Canada. That's a very hard thing to do once, and to do it twice or 3 times, 4 times, it speaks for itself. Now, in this case, I'm looking at the Mississauga Steelheads roster, and this player right here, Ryan McLeod, I'm just going to break it out. I'm going to take Ryan McLeod because he wore an alternate captain's patch. He's fast, he's smart, and I think he's got more in him as a scorer than he leads on, but right now he's a very good playmaker. They're going to need that down the center. New York Rangers right here again with the 26th pick in the 2018 NHL draft take Ryan McLeod from the OHL.
So at 27, I have Chicago taking a guy who's been rising up my draft board towards the end of the season, Jake Wise. We're trying really hard not to make a Wise pun just because Keith put that in my head the other day. That was a groaner, but he really does play a 200-foot game, and I think that term gets maybe thrown out a bit loosely, but I really, really do enjoy both his work ethic at both ends of the ice, and I think being on that development team, playing behind guys like Jack Hughes, Oliver Wahlstrom, Joel Farabee, he's been able to focus less so on his offensive game and more on the defensive side, and I think he truly is going to be a great two-way center in the league. And that's not to say that his offensive game isn't strong overall either. He's quite a good playmaker with a decent shot already.
New York already selected 2 centers, Kotkaniemi and McLeod, so it will be normal to finally draft a defenseman. Maybe the next coming of King Lundqvist defenseman Neil Lundqvist, but again, with so much talent on the board, they can pass on all of them. With the 28th pick, the New York Rangers select Grigory Denisenko. Denisenko didn't put up impressive numbers in the MHL, but like Kupari, the talent is there. He's a good skater, stick handler, and passer. He's on the small side, but he's surprisingly physical. A high-risk, high-reward player, but with the 28th pick, it's not a risk anymore.
The St. Louis Blues have a really great option right here at the end of the first round, and at this point, there are going to be some parts that are either going to fall into the second round or creep right into the back end here of the first round, because those parts are so close in terms of, I guess, what you're evaluating. So the St. Louis Blues, again, like I said, have options. Now, this might not be the pick that they ended up making. I'm just guessing, kind of, but I'm going to go with Jacob Olofsson. And here's why I'll say that, because Olofsson, to me, has the ability to play older than he is. And when he was younger, I believe he was 15 years old. That was when he first made his first appearance in the SuperElit League, which is a J20 league. So again, he's playing with, essentially 5 years younger than the cap for that league. And now he's played in the Allsvenskan league for at least 2 years. So that's for the people who don't know, that's the step right below the SHL. So it's for adult players that that are older than the J20 league, but aren't quite good enough to just make the SHL. So again, the Allsvenskan league is still a very high quality league. And this is a player that, again, as a 16, 17-year-old, has played in that league. So that means that he has experience against older players. And that experience is going to take him a little further in the NHL than I think most people think, especially for the fact I just brought up about if you have an extra patch on your sweater. He was an alternate captain for Team Sweden at the Ivan Holinka last year, and he put up some really good numbers. So if you're a captain, you put up big numbers, and you have the potential to succeed against older competition at this age. Why not take Jacob Lawson right here with the 29th pick in the 2018 NHL draft for the St. Louis Blues?
We're recording this on June 4th, so right now we don't know who between Vegas and Washington will win the Stanley Cups. So we decided to go with the regular season point. So Detroit will select with Vegas pick at the 31st spot, while Washington will go at the 30th spot.
All right, so at number 30, at the tail end of the first round, I think I'm looking for skill, I'm looking for speed, and I think the big Finnish winger, Jesse Ullinen, who's a bit older for this draft year. He wasn't eligible for this year's U18s, but he played last year, and he looked quite good on the same line with Kotkaniemi on the power play, and I think he's a strong, versatile forward in the offensive zone who has really, really good hands up close and in tight around the net, which is, I think, where he's going to be a goal scorer in the NHL because he knows how to put the puck in the net in maybe not the prettiest of ways, but he gets the job done, and I think that's going to be great for Washington to add even more firepower to their arsenal.
Detroit.
I'll say real quick, I think people in Michigan would appreciate it more if it was called Detroit. Like you would actually
say it like that.
I think it would actually, if like you really want to clean up that city really quick from like the crime and like punishment, just change the name.
Yeah, make it sound a little more.
Oh my God.
Funny.
Detroit already select a flashy defenseman in Quinn. So I will continue on that path and select the next most skilled player of the draft. With the last pick of the first round, the Detroit Red Wings select Niklas Nordgren. Nordgren is a monster on the ice. He got so much energy and he's doing everything on the ice. He's an excellent shooter, stick handling passer, and he got an amazing vision and hockey IQ. He's very small and he has skating problems, but I really think he's the European Alex DeBrincat. So do you guys have players who were surprised who didn't get taken in the first round?
I think Alexander Alexiev could have been taken in the first round, but he's kind of a bubble first rounder for me. So I understand why he's not there, but it's not that his production or him as a player shouldn't be there. It's just that there are so many good players in this first round that it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to really squeeze those pieces in. Again, like I was saying earlier with St. Louis, I guess at that point, anything is interchangeable at maybe even 25 and on, so maybe there. And I guess another name too that I've heard a lot about, but I'm kind of surprised didn't really show up on our list was Saron Noel. I think Noel still has I think here's the thing with Noel. I think Noel knows what abilities he has, he knows what abilities he doesn't have, and I think he knows that he right now is a piece of Play-Doh. And what I mean by that is that whoever drafts him, they're going to put him into a situation, either going back to juniors or the way that they groom him. And he's going to end up being the kind of player that the team builds. So let's say in 7-8 years from now, when Saron Noel is really good and he hits the free agent market and he signs with another club, he could end up being really bad, because this is the kind of player that is simply, or could simply be, the product of a system, not necessarily the product of what the NHL is, if that makes sense.
It will be my pick too. I was really surprised to see Saron Noel fall, but also a guy like Martin Kaut. And so that was surprising to me. But there is so many players in the top 45th that could be picked in the first round. I think it's the first year I could see so many guys select in the first round. It wouldn't surprise me. So it's normal to see some guys fall outside of the first round. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Brett and Keith for making this possible. Make sure to check out Brett on his YouTube channel Mirokiondefence for Canucks coverage and NHL draft videos, and Keith on hawkmock.com for NHL draft coverage. They do an incredible job, so go support them. I'll see you for the next one.